everyone. My name is Audrey Pe. I'm from the Philippines, and I'm the founder and executive director of a nonprofit called WeTech, which is short for Women in Technology. WeTech aims to educate, inspire, and empower Filipino youth to break gender barriers and use technology to make a difference in society. I'm also 18 years old and on a gap year before going to Stanford University to study science, technology, and society. Thank you. I started WeTech when I was 15, and I did it out of a very personal need that I saw within my community, the fact that there was an underrepresentation of girls in technology. To best start off this story, I think it's best that we rewind back to my middle school years. In the Philippines, computer science isn't required by the Philippine curriculum. Instead, we had computer class, wherein we had to learn how to use Microsoft PowerPoint, Excel, Microsoft Office. And 13-year-old me didn't exactly find that very interesting. Until one day, my computer teacher decided to change things up a bit and introduce us to a game where we had to have a snake navigate a maze using lines of code. Immediately, I was hooked. That was the first time that I realized that the apps and the websites that I loved so dearly and grew up with were made using programming. When I asked my teacher if I could learn more, I was told that programming wasn't part of the Philippine curriculum, so I'd have to look for resources myself. And that was exactly what I did. I went online, I Googled free online programming tutorials, and for 2 to 3 years, I had taught myself how to code Java, HTML, Python. Fast forward to high school, and I started getting asked the scary question, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to take in college? And I'd tell my peers and my teachers that I wanted to go into technology. And I was met with a lot of mixed responses. I was told by my peers that, hey, isn't that weird? You're a girl and you want to go into tech? I unfortunately did not receive that much guidance from my parents because they're both bankers. When I went to a teacher and told her that I wanted to take up something along the lines of computer science, she told me that she couldn't imagine seeing me in the tech industry. So think, I was 15, I wanted to enter the tech industry, but it was as if all these factors around me were telling me that I couldn't. So I did what any teenager would do when faced with a seemingly insurmountable problem. I Googled it. I quite literally Googled women in tech, and I discovered statistics that confirmed my suspicions about the lack of diversity, lack of representation in the tech industry. I found that according to the Philippine Startup Survey, only 18% of startups in the Philippines were founded by women. And I found out, according to PayScale, that globally, women were paid 18 to 22% less than their male counterparts in tech. I was looking at these statistics as a sophomore in high school and thinking to myself, wow, it seems as if the tech industry in the Philippines and worldwide really doesn't want to accommodate me, a young Asian Filipina girl, into tech. But I was stubborn. I told myself that I wasn't not going to go into tech just because of these statistics. I wanted to change them. I wanted to do something about it. So I looked up the hashtag Women in Tech on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I found stories of women who were featuring their work and advocating for a more diverse tech space. I'd cold email them and I'd ask them questions like, how did you develop your interest in tech? How did you find role models and support when it seemed as if the field just wasn't welcoming you? And a lot of these women were willing to share their stories with young 15-year-old me because they wanted role models when they were growing up. I collated these stories in what was then the WeTech blog. One of my favorite interviewees in the WeTech blog was user experience developer Allison Folk from Pittsburgh, United States. What made Allison's story so compelling was that she just wasn't a UX developer, but also a part-time model. She taught me that you can be feminine and into technology, and that fields of beauty and STEM aren't mutually exclusive. But Allison also shared to me the tougher side of what she had to face going into tech. The lewd remarks made about her appearance at tech conferences, the sexual harassment she even faced at a conference in the US. As I continued to publish stories like Allison's, the WeTech blog gained traction. After our first year, we hit 1,000 email subscribers from 100 different countries. But I felt like I was stuck. Sure, I was writing these features about inspiring women in tech. I was finding role models that I couldn't see in the industry, but I didn't know if the work that I was doing was really impacting the intended audience, young girls. I didn't know if I was truly encouraging young girls to go into tech simply by writing these stories. At a hackathon months later, I found myself in a room wherein I was one of few girls at the hackathon. It was as if for every girl, there were 4 or 5 guys there. And I bonded with one of the female participants named Marla Abao, who also felt the lack of diversity and inclusivity at that hackathon. None of the speakers were women, none of the mentors, none of the judges, and barely any of the participants were girls. So I joked to Marla, why don't we start our own tech conference that focuses on the achievements of women in tech, of diversity, inclusivity, innovation? And she said, yeah, let's do it. And that was how we ended up hosting the first Women in Tech conference for students and by students in the Philippines. We brought over 50 high school and college students from across the country to a one-day event that focused on showing the multiple facets of tech and how women can be as involved in technology as guys. We consciously made the decision to include not just girls and guys on our team and in our conference because we recognize that guys need to be allies in this fight for gender equality. What we noticed, though, was after the conference, we saw that the participants were mostly from middle to upper class upbringings and that they could afford to access technology because they had the resources, the Wi-Fi, the laptops to do so. And in the Philippines, that simply isn't the reality, where a lot of kids don't have Wi-Fi access or have never owned laptops before. So my team and I traveled to a southern part of the Philippines called Marawi that was bombed in 2017 due to suspected ISIS terrorists. I had been put in contact with a librarian from that school, from the Mindanao State University's High School Training Center, because of a previous outreach project I had done. And according to the librarian, there was no programming education, and many of the kids had never even heard of programming before. We brought secondhand laptops and coding modules to this community. And when we got there, we asked the 37 kids that we taught, do you know what programming is? And only one of them raised their hand. And he said that, oh, it's that thing where you type really quickly. So to this day, we still don't count that as really knowing about what programming is. But after that project that we held in Marawi, my team and I realized that in order to advocate for a more equal tech space in our country, we need to start by providing resources for youth to learn about technology, to learn about what startups are in the first place. What drives us is this excitement that we see in kids' eyes when they hold a laptop for the first time or write "Hello World" in code. And what drives me on a day-to-day basis isn't just what we've accomplished thus far with WeTech. It isn't just the events, the reach that we've had, not just in our country but worldwide, but simply a dream. A dream of advocating for a more equal tech space for my generation to grow up in. A dream of every single Filipino youth being able to excel and access technology regardless of where they're born or what gender they're born into. It's not these flashy achievements or articles that drive me to wake up at 4 a.m. before school to do work on my nonprofit. Instead, what drives me is knowing that there's so much potential to use technology for social good, and that by providing more people, more young people from my country with the resources to be able to excel and go into technology, we can see ripple effects and a future generation of changemakers using technology for social good. Thank you.